I just got home from a business trip and found out that my fiance moved his family into my house without my permission. His mom is trying to claim my bedroom because they are the oldest. My fiance moved his parents, his 3 brothers, and his 2 sisters into my house while I was on a 5-day business trip to Seattle. I left Sunday morning for a crucial presentation that could make or break my promotion to regional manager. Victor kissed me goodbye, said he'd miss me, promised to water my plants and feed my cat Muffin. The presentation went perfectly. My boss pulled me aside Thursday to basically confirm the promotion was mine. I was so excited that I caught an earlier flight home Friday to surprise Victor and celebrate. Maybe cook his favorite dinner, open that expensive wine we'd been saving. I pulled into my driveway at 2 in the afternoon instead of 8 at night like planned. That's when I noticed the cars. 4 cars I didn't recognize crammed in my driveway and on my lawn. I figured Victor had friends over, though he'd never mentioned anything. Then I walked through my front door and found 7 strangers in my living room. Not strangers exactly. Victor's family, who I'd met exactly twice in our 3-year relationship because they lived across the country. His mother, Linda, was rearranging my bookshelf. His father, Carl, had his feet up on my coffee table watching soccer on my TV with the volume at maximum. His brothers were spread across my couch eating chips, crumbs everywhere. His sisters were in the corner painting their nails on my grandmother's antique side table. The chemical smell hit me immediately. Victor came out of the kitchen carrying a tray of sandwiches like he was hosting a party. His face went white when he saw me. "You're home early," he said stupidly. I looked around my invaded home. "Why is your entire family in my house, Victor?" Linda stood up smiling like nothing was wrong. "We're visiting. Victor said you wouldn't mind. Such a beautiful home you have. We've already made ourselves comfortable." I turned to Victor. "Visiting? Where are they staying?" That's when his youngest brother, Eddie, laughed from the couch. "We're staying here, obviously. Victor said you had plenty of room. 3 bedrooms just sitting empty while we were cramped in our tiny apartments. Victor, can I talk to you privately? Now." We went to the kitchen where I discovered they'd already reorganized my cabinets. My grandmother's china was stacked carelessly next to regular plates. Someone had used my cast iron pan and left it soaking in water, probably ruining it. "Start explaining," I said, before I completely lose it. Victor actually tried to look innocent. "My family needed a place to stay. They were getting evicted from their apartment, and hotels are expensive. You have all this space you never use. I thought you'd understand." "They were evicted? All 7 of them? From the same apartment?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Well, my parents were evicted. My brothers have been sleeping on couches. My sisters just graduated and need time to find jobs. They all needed somewhere to go and were getting married soon anyway. This will be their house too eventually." I stared at this man I'd planned to marry. "First of all, we're engaged, not married. Second, this is my house. I bought it before we met. My name only on the deed. Third, you don't move 7 people into someone's home without asking. That's insane." Linda walked into the kitchen without knocking. "Oh good, you're discussing sleeping arrangements. I assume Carl and I will take the master bedroom since we're the eldest. You 2 can share the guest room." I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh, but the kind that comes out when reality breaks. "You think you're taking my bedroom? In my house? That I pay for?" Linda looked offended. "Respect your elders, young lady. We're going to be family." "No," I said loudly enough that everyone in the living room could hear. "This is how this works. You have 1 hour to get out of my house. All of you. Pack whatever you brought and leave. If you're not gone in 60 minutes, I'm calling the police for trespassing." Victor grabbed my arm. "You can't kick out my family. Where will they go?" "Not my problem," I said, shaking him off. "They're adults who apparently can't maintain housing. That's not my responsibility. And you, Victor, you're going with them. We're done." "She's being selfish," said the middle one. "Paul, this house is huge." Linda started crying dramatically. "I knew she'd be like this, Victor. I told you she wasn't raised right. No sense of family values. Just greed." Carl walked in next. "Young lady, you're being unreasonable. We're family now. You can't just throw us out," and pulled out a paper that made me collapsed. I stare at the paper Carl is holding, my vision blurring as I try to focus on the words through my shock and rising panic. It's a lease agreement. My address is printed at the top. There's a signature at the bottom that's supposed to be mine but isn't. The letters are similar, but the curves are all wrong. I never signed this. I never even saw this before right now. The document claims I agreed to rent 3 rooms to Victor's family for 6 months at rates way below what anyone would actually charge. $200 per month total. That's crazy low. My mortgage alone is $1,500. The fake lease lists all their names as tenants with rights to common areas and utilities included. My legs give out and I grab the kitchen counter to keep from falling completely. The cold granite digs into my palms as I try to stay upright. Victor rushes over to steady me, but I shove him away hard enough that he stumbles backward into the refrigerator. The magnets holding Muffin's vet appointment reminders clatter to the floor. "Don't touch me," I say. My voice sounds strange and far away, like I'm hearing myself through water. The lease is obviously fake, but it looks real enough to cause me serious legal problems if they try to establish tenancy. The paper quality is good. There's an official-looking stamp in the corner. Someone put actual effort into making this forgery convincing. I demand to know how they got this document and who forged my signature. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold the paper. Where did this come from, Victor? Who made this? Carl claims Victor told them I'd signed it before leaving for Seattle, that I was happy to help family in need. He says it so calmly, like he actually believes it. Linda adds that they have text messages from Victor confirming I approved everything. She pulls out her phone and starts scrolling through messages. See? Right here. Victor said you were excited to have us stay. That you insisted we take the master bedroom because you wanted us comfortable. I look at Victor and something clicks into place in my brain. This wasn't a desperate last-minute decision. He's been planning this betrayal for weeks, maybe months. You told them I agreed to this? You showed them a fake lease with my forged signature? Victor won't meet my eyes. He's staring at the floor like there's something fascinating about the tile pattern. His face has gone pale except for 2 red spots high on his cheeks. I thought once they were here you'd just accept it, he mumbles. You have the space. You're always saying how empty the house feels. That's not the same thing as wanting 7 people to move in without asking. I'm screaming now and I don't care. The neighbors can probably hear me through the walls, but I don't care about that either. You forged legal documents with my name. That's a crime, Victor. Carl tries to step between us, but I hold up my hand. Stay back. All of you stay back or I'm calling the cops right now. I pull out my phone with shaking hands and dial the police non-emergency line. My fingers keep slipping on the screen. Victor tries to grab my phone, but I'm faster. I lock myself in the bathroom and lean against the door. The dispatcher answers on the 3rd ring. I tell her I have 7 trespassers in my home who refuse to leave and have forged documents claiming they have permission to be here. She asks if I'm in immediate danger. I say no, but they won't leave voluntarily. She says she's sending an officer. I stay in the bathroom with the door locked. Someone tries the handle, but I've got my weight against it. Victor is talking through the door saying I'm being crazy and unreasonable. His mother is crying loudly in the hallway. I can hear Carl telling everyone to calm down, that this is all a misunderstanding. 20 minutes feels like hours. I sit on the closed toilet lid and try to breathe normally. My chest feels tight like there's a band around my ribs. Finally, the doorbell rings. I unlock the bathroom and push past Victor. The police officer is young, maybe late 20s, with a serious expression. I show him the fake lease and then pull out my deed and driver's license from my office. He compares the signatures carefully. These don't match, he says. Not even close. He looks at Victor and his family. Who created this document? Nobody answers. The officer confirms the signature doesn't match my driver's license, and that Victor had no legal right to move anyone into my property. He asks to see everyone's identification. The family's faces shift from smug confidence to worried confusion as they realize the cop isn't on their side. Linda stops crying. Carl's jaw tightens. The officer explains that because they just arrived today and have forged documents, this is criminal trespassing rather than a civil eviction matter. He gives them 30 minutes to gather their belongings and leave, warning that anyone remaining will be arrested. Linda starts crying again, dramatically this time, with loud sobs. Carl argues about their rights as tenants. The officer cuts him off. You're not tenants. You have a fraudulent document. That makes you trespassers. 30 minutes starting now. Victor begs me to reconsider. His family will be homeless and it's my fault for not being more giving. I tell him coldly that he made them homeless by lying to them about having my permission. You told them I agreed, Victor. You forged my signature on a legal document. This is on you, not me. The officer takes notes about the forged lease and says I should press charges. He hands me a card with a case number. I definitely want to press charges, I say. The officer nods and starts timing the 30 minutes on his watch. While the family frantically packs, I call Arya. She answers on the 1st ring. I need you to come to my house right now. There's been a situation. She doesn't ask questions, just says she'll be there in 10 minutes. She arrives just as the police officer is supervising the family's departure. She takes one look at the chaos and immediately starts documenting everything with her phone camera. She films Victor's brothers carrying boxes to their cars, muttering insults under their breath. Eddie calls me a selfish witch. Paul says I'll regret this. Arya gets it all on video. Linda makes one final attempt to guilt me, saying I'm destroying a family and breaking her son's heart. I respond that Victor destroyed our relationship when he violated my home and forged my signature on legal documents. The officer escorts them out when the 30 minutes expires. Their cars pull away one by one, tires squealing on the pavement. After everyone leaves, I discover they've stolen food from my pantry. Half my groceries are gone. They used my expensive toiletries. My favorite shampoo is nearly empty. Linda took several of my grandmother's decorative items, including a crystal vase and silver picture frame. Arya helps me inventory what's missing while I try to process how big this betrayal really is. I feel sick and angry and violated in my own home. This was supposed to be my safe space, and Victor let strangers invade it. I grab my phone and search for emergency locksmiths in my area. The first 3 I call are booked up or charge crazy prices for same-day service. The 4th one, a guy named Rick, says he can be here in 40 minutes for double his normal rate. I don't even hesitate before saying yes. Arya makes us tea while we wait. Her presence the only thing keeping me from completely falling apart. The locksmith shows up exactly when he promised. A middle-aged man with a toolbox and a kind face who doesn't ask questions about why I need all my locks changed on a Friday evening. He works efficiently, replacing the front door lock, back door lock, and the lock on the garage door that leads into the house. The sound of the drill is strangely comforting, like I'm physically sealing Victor and his family out of my life. Rick hands me 3 sets of new keys and I pay him in cash, thanking him probably too many times. After he leaves, Arya suggests we do a thorough check of the whole house to see what else they might have done or taken. We start in the kitchen, where I already know about the reorganized cabinets and ruined cast iron pan. Opening the refrigerator, I find it stuffed with food I didn't buy. Cheap lunch meat, generic soda, a gallon of milk that expires in 2 days, eggs, butter, bread. Someone went grocery shopping and filled my fridge like they were moving in permanently. The freezer has frozen pizzas and ice cream, family-size portions. Arya photographs everything with her phone. We move to the guest bedroom, where I find 2 suitcases under the bed, still packed with men's clothes. Victor's brothers clearly plan to stay a while. The closet has women's clothes hanging up, nice dresses and work outfits that must belong to his sisters. In the bathroom attached to that room, the counter is covered with makeup, hair products, and toiletries. Someone's entire beauty routine is spread across my counter. The other guest bedroom has more evidence. A laptop sitting on the desk, charging. Men's shoes lined up by the door. The bed is unmade with sheets I don't recognize. They brought their own bedding. Arya keeps photographing while I feel my anger building again. These people weren't visiting. They were moving in. We check my bedroom last, and I'm relieved to find it mostly untouched, except the bed is slightly messed up like someone sat on it. My closet looks normal. My bathroom seems fine. But when I check my office, my stomach drops. My file cabinet drawer is slightly open. I always keep it locked, but the lock has been forced. Inside, my personal documents are out of order. Bank statements, tax returns, insurance papers, the deed to my house. Someone went through everything. I immediately call my bank's fraud line and explain that someone may have accessed my account information without permission. The representative puts a fraud alert on my account and suggests I come in Monday to review all recent transactions. I do the same with my credit card companies and the 3 credit bureaus, putting fraud alerts on everything. It takes almost an hour of phone calls, but I feel slightly better knowing my accounts are protected. My phone starts buzzing around 9 that night. Victor. I don't answer. He calls again. And again. Then the texts start coming in rapid succession. I'm so sorry, baby, please talk to me. I made a mistake. I should have asked you first. But you would have said no. My family needed help and I knew you had the space. You're overreacting. The police? Really? You could have just talked to me like an adult. Now my whole family is at a motel and it's all your fault. How could you do this to people who were going to be your family? You're selfish and cold. I can't believe I was going to marry someone so heartless. My family has nowhere to go and you don't even care. You ruined everything. This was their last chance at stability, and you destroyed it because you care more about your precious house than actual human beings. I show the messages to Arya and she shakes her head. He's trying to make you feel guilty for his own choices. He's the one who lied and forged documents and invaded your home. None of this is your fault. I know she's right, but the messages still hurt. I block Victor's number after the last text. Arya insists on staying the night, sleeping in the guest room after we strip the bed and put on fresh sheets. I'm grateful because I don't think I could handle being alone in the house tonight. Everything feels contaminated by strangers who invaded my space. I barely sleep, jumping at every sound. The next morning, I call my workplace and ask to speak with my manager. I explain that I have a personal emergency and need a few days off. My colleague Finn, who works in the same department, picks up when my manager transfers the call. Finn knows about my promotion because we've been working on a project together. He immediately offers to cover my urgent tasks and tells me not to worry about anything. Take whatever time you need. We've got everything handled here. His support makes me want to cry. At least my professional life is stable even while my personal life is exploding. Monday morning, I have an appointment with attorney Luca Tyson that Arya helped me set up over the weekend. His office is downtown in a nice building with a view of the city. Luca is younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes and a confident handshake. I bring everything. The forged lease, the police report, photos of the stolen items and the evidence they plan to stay, screenshots of Victor's harassing texts before I blocked him, documentation of the forced file cabinet and rifled documents. Luca reviews everything carefully, making notes on a legal pad. He looks up after about 20 minutes. You have very strong grounds for a restraining order. The forged lease alone is serious. Add the harassment, the theft, the invasion of your home and privacy. We can also pursue criminal charges for forgery and fraud. The police report helps significantly. He explains the process for filing a restraining order and what to expect at the hearing. His calm professionalism helps me feel less powerless. For the first time since Friday, I feel like I'm taking back control instead of just reacting. Luca leans forward and his expression is serious. I need you to understand something important. If you had let them stay even one night, they could have claimed tenancy rights. With that fake lease, they would have argued they were legal tenants and you'd need to go through formal eviction proceedings. That process takes months in this state. By acting immediately and getting police involved, you protected yourself from a legal nightmare. You did exactly the right thing. I feel cold realizing how close I came to losing control of my own home. If I hadn't caught that earlier flight, if I'd arrived at 8 instead of 2, they would have been settled in, unpacked, claiming they had my permission and a lease to prove it. Victor planned this carefully. That afternoon, Luca and I go to the courthouse to file for a restraining order. I detail everything in the paperwork. Victor's unauthorized entry using his key, the forged lease with my signature, moving 7 people into my home without permission, the harassment via calls and texts, the theft of my grandmother's items, the forced lock on my file cabinet. The judge who reviews the temporary order is a woman in her 50s with kind eyes. She reads through everything and asks me a few questions about my relationship with Victor and whether I feel unsafe. I explain that I don't think he'd physically hurt me, but his actions show he has no respect for my boundaries or property rights. She grants a temporary restraining order on the spot and schedules a hearing in 2 weeks for a permanent one. Victor must stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. He cannot contact me directly or through others. Leaving the courthouse, I feel the first real spark of my old confidence coming back. I'm not a victim. I'm someone taking action to protect myself. Tuesday morning, I'm at my desk trying to focus on work emails when my office phone rings. I answer without thinking. The voice on the other end is Linda, Victor's mother, crying. Please, you have to drop this restraining order. Victor made a mistake, but he did it out of love for his family. You're being so cruel. We have nowhere to go, and it's all because you won't forgive one little mistake. He's a good man who was just trying to help his family. You're vindictive and heartless. My hand tightens on the phone. Linda, stop contacting me. What Victor did was not a mistake. It was planned fraud and theft. Do not call me again. I hang up before she can respond. My hands are shaking, but I feel proud of myself for not engaging. 10 minutes later, my boss calls me into her office. I walk in worried that Linda's call caused problems. Instead, my boss gestures for me to sit, and her expression is concerned but not angry. I got a call from security about someone trying to reach you who sounded upset. Do you want to tell me what's going on? I explain the situation as professionally as I can. My former fiance moved his family into my house without permission while I was in Seattle. They had a forged lease. I had to call police and get a restraining order. His mother just called here trying to get me to drop it. My boss listens without interrupting. When I finish, she nods. First, I'm having security screen all your calls. Anyone who isn't on an approved list won't get through. Second, your promotion is still happening. This personal situation doesn't affect your professional standing at all. You've handled this crisis and still met all your work obligations. That shows character. I almost cry from relief. Thank you. I was worried this might impact my career. She shakes her head firmly. Not at all. Take whatever time you need to handle the legal aspects. We support you completely. That evening, Arya comes over and we go through my house room by room again, this time looking specifically for anything else missing or damaged. In my office, we find that someone didn't just look through my file cabinet. They photographed documents. I can tell because papers are slightly out of order in a way that suggests they were laid flat and photographed rather than just read. My bank statements from the past year, my tax returns, my insurance policies, everything someone would need to steal my identity or access my accounts. I immediately call my bank again and explain the new concern. The representative schedules an appointment for the next morning to review all my accounts in detail. I contact the credit agencies again to make sure the fraud alerts are in place. Arya finds more evidence in the kitchen. The expensive olive oil I bought for cooking is half empty. My good coffee is gone, replaced with cheap generic stuff. Someone went through my pantry and swapped out quality items for cheaper versions, probably thinking I wouldn't notice. It's such a petty, insulting thing that I actually laugh. They stole my coffee. Wednesday morning, I meet with a bank representative who pulls up my account history. She scrolls back 6 months and her expression changes. There are transfers here I need to ask you about. Small amounts going to an external account, $50 here, $100 there, sometimes $75. She shows me the screen. The transfers go back to October, about 6 months ago. They happen every week or two, always under $100. The kind of amount that might not be noticed in regular checking account activity. I feel sick. That's Victor's account. He had access to my online banking because I trusted him. The representative calculates the total. Over 6 months, he transferred $3,200. I file a police report that afternoon, adding financial theft to the growing list of Victor's crimes. The officer who takes my statement is the same one who responded to my house on Friday. He remembers me and shakes his head when I explain about the money. Your ex really thought this through. The small amounts, the forged lease, moving his family in while you were gone. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. I sit in my car after leaving the police station and let myself feel the full weight of betrayal. I trusted Victor with my home, my finances, my future. He systematically stole from me for months while planning to move his entire family into my house. Every kiss goodbye was a lie. Every promise was manipulation. Every I love you was just part of his plan to use me. I call Luca the next morning and explain about the stolen money. He asks me to come to his office right away and bring all my bank records. I arrive within an hour with printouts showing every transfer Victor made over 6 months. Luca reviews each page carefully, making notes and highlighting the pattern of small withdrawals. He explains that this changes everything, because it shows Victor wasn't just making a bad choice for his family, but was actively stealing from me while planning the whole invasion. The transfer started in October, months before his family supposedly faced eviction. This proves Victor was setting up his plan long before any crisis happened. Luca adds this evidence to my restraining order case and says it makes my position much stronger. The judge will see that Victor's actions weren't desperate mistakes but calculated theft and manipulation. I feel sick knowing Victor spent months stealing from me while kissing me goodbye every morning and pretending everything was normal. And 3 days later, a letter arrives from Victor's attorney. I open it at my kitchen table and read the accusations that I'm harassing Victor and making his life difficult. The letter demands I return his personal belongings immediately and stop contacting him or his family. I actually laugh out loud at the nerve of claiming I'm the one harassing him after what he did to my house and my bank account. I scan the letter and email it to Luca, who calls me back within an hour. He says he'll respond that Victor can collect his belongings under police supervision at a scheduled time and date. Luca explains that Victor's attorney is trying to paint him as the victim and make me look like the bad guy. This is a common tactic when someone knows they're legally wrong. They try to flip the situation and claim they're being persecuted. I realize Victor is trying to control the story even now, making himself look like the hurt party instead of the person who forged documents and stole money. The supervised property exchange happens on Saturday morning. I arrive at my house at 10 with receipts for everything valuable I own, organized in a folder by room. The police officer is already there waiting in his car. Victor pulls up 5 minutes later with Carl sitting in the passenger seat. My stomach drops when I see Carl because the restraining order should keep him away from me. The officer notices my reaction and walks over to Victor's car before they can get out. He speaks to them through the window and I see Carl arguing and pointing at me. The officer shakes his head firmly, and Carl finally stays in the car while Victor gets out alone. Victor walks past me without looking at my face and goes straight to the bedroom. I follow with the officer behind me. Victor starts pulling open drawers and grabbing clothes, shoving them into garbage bags he brought. Then he reaches for my laptop sitting on the dresser. I step forward and say that's mine. Victor turns and claims he paid for half of it, so he's taking it. I pull out my receipt showing I bought it 8 months before we even met. The officer takes the receipt, verifies the date, and tells Victor to leave it. Victor's face gets red and he moves toward the bookshelf where he grabs at some picture frames. Those are mine too. He claims he gave them to me as gifts, so they're his to take back. I have the credit card statement showing I bought them myself. The officer stops Victor again and I can see his frustration building. He abandons the bedroom and goes to the living room where he tries to claim the coffee table. I bought that table at an estate sale before Victor moved in, and I have the receipt. The officer is losing patience now and tells Victor to stick to his actual belongings only. Carl gets out of the car despite being told to stay inside. He walks up my driveway and stands too close to me on my front porch. The officer is inside supervising Victor, so Carl thinks he can get away with this. He leans in and tells me in a low voice that I'm making a big mistake turning his family into enemies. His breath smells like coffee and cigarettes. He says I'll regret this someday when I need help and have nobody because I burned bridges with good people. His face is inches from mine and I can feel my heart beating fast, but I don't step back. I hold my ground and look him straight in the eye. The officer comes outside right then and sees Carl standing too close. He immediately steps between us and tells Carl he's violating the restraining order by proxy and needs to get back in his car now or he'll be arrested. Carl backs away slowly, still staring at me with this look that's supposed to scare me. The officer warns him that any more contact will result in immediate arrest and follows him back to the car to make sure he stays there. Victor finishes packing only his actual clothes and personal items. He walks past me carrying 3 garbage bags and stops at the door. He turns and calls me a vindictive witch who enjoys destroying people's lives. The officer tells him to leave immediately. Victor throws the bags in his trunk and gets in the car. Carl glares at me through the windshield as they drive away. I stand on my porch watching until their car disappears around the corner. The officer asks if I'm okay, and I nod even though my hands are shaking. He says I handled that well by standing my ground and having documentation ready. He gives me his card and tells me to call immediately if Victor or any of his family contacts me again. After he leaves, I go back inside and lock the door. I walk through my house checking every room to make sure Victor didn't take anything else. Everything looks normal until I get to the bedroom and open his nightstand drawer to make sure it's empty. There's a folded piece of paper at the bottom of the drawer under some old receipts. I pull it out and unfold it. The date at the top says 2 months ago, back in February. I start reading and my blood goes cold. It's Victor's handwriting outlining his plan to move his family into my house. Step 1 says invite them for a visit while she's away on business. Step 2 says extend the visit by a few days claiming car trouble or some excuse. Step 3 says have them start unpacking and settling in. Step 4 says present the fake lease when she objects. Step 5 says wait her out because she'll eventually give up and accept the situation rather than cause family drama. I read it 3 times trying to process that Victor planned this entire thing months in advance. This wasn't a desperate decision to help his family during a crisis. This was a calculated plan to take over my house and manipulate me into accepting it. The note even mentions that I'm too nice and conflict avoidant to actually kick them out once they're settled. He was counting on me being too polite to stand firm. I feel physically sick reading how well he thought he knew me and how he planned to use my personality against me. I call Luca immediately and tell him about the note. He asks me to bring it to his office right now and not to fold it or handle it more than necessary. I drive over with the note sitting on my passenger seat like it's contaminated. Luca photographs it from multiple angles and makes copies. He explains that this note is crucial evidence because it proves Victor's actions weren't a mistake made in desperation, but a planned manipulation going back months. The judge will see that Victor deliberately deceived me and planned to violate my home and boundaries. This wasn't about helping his family. This was about taking what was mine through manipulation and fraud. Luca says the restraining order hearing is in 3 days, and this evidence will be crucial to getting the permanent order. He adds the photos to my case file along with everything else. I ask what happens if the judge doesn't believe me or thinks I'm overreacting. Luca shakes his head and says the evidence is too strong. The forged lease, the stolen money, the planning note, the harassment from his family. This isn't a relationship dispute. This is a pattern of deception and abuse that any reasonable judge will recognize. That evening, Finn shows up at my door holding bags of Chinese food. He says he figured I probably hadn't eaten and could use some company. We sit at my kitchen table and eat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Finn tells me he went through a bad breakup last year where his ex cheated on him with his best friend. He says he understands how betrayal shakes your foundation and makes you question your own judgment. The worst part isn't just losing the relationship, but losing your trust in yourself and your ability to read people. I thank him for sharing that and for being here. He says that's what friends do, and he's seen how I've handled this whole situation with strength and clarity. A lot of people would have backed down or let Victor manipulate them into feeling guilty. Finn stays for 2 hours just talking about work stuff and normal life things that help me feel less alone. After he leaves, I realize how grateful I am for colleagues who become real friends during hard times. The permanent restraining order hearing arrives on Thursday morning. I dress professionally and arrive at the courthouse 30 minutes early. Luca meets me outside and we review everything one more time. Victor shows up with his attorney and Linda right behind them. Linda is wearing all black like she's going to a funeral. They sit on the opposite side of the courtroom and Linda keeps staring at me with this wounded expression. The judge calls the case and asks me to present my evidence. I hand over copies of everything including the forged lease, the planning note, my bank statements showing the theft and documentation of the harassment. The judge reviews each document carefully while Victor's attorney argues that this is just a relationship dispute between two people who are hurt and angry. He claims I'm exaggerating normal relationship problems to punish Victor for choosing his family over me. Luca responds that forging legal documents and stealing money aren't relationship problems but criminal acts. The evidence shows a clear pattern of deception and financial abuse going back months. The judge looks up from the documents and asks Victor directly if he forged my signature on the lease agreement. Victor's attorney leans over and whispers to him. Then the attorney says his client declines to answer on the advice of counsel. The judge makes a note on her pad and says she's noting the refusal to answer for the record. Then she asks Victor if he moved 7 people into my home without my permission while I was out of town. Again, the attorney advises Victor not to answer. The judge makes another note. Linda suddenly stands up and starts talking about how I'm a selfish person who refused to help family in need. The judge tells her sharply to sit down and be quiet, or she'll be removed from the courtroom. Linda sits but keeps shaking her head and dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The judge reviews all the evidence again, and then looks at Victor. She says his refusal to answer direct questions speaks volumes when combined with the documented evidence of forgery, theft, and planned deception. The judge grants the permanent restraining order for 1 year. She states clearly that Victor's actions show a pattern of deception and financial abuse, not a simple relationship conflict. She recommends I pursue criminal charges for the forgery and theft, because the evidence is strong enough to support prosecution. Victor has to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. She warns Linda that as Victor's family member, she needs to respect the order as well, and any attempts to contact me on his behalf will be treated as violations. I feel this wave of relief and validation wash over me. The judge heard me and believed me, and recognized that what Victor did was wrong. For 3 years, Victor made me feel like my concerns didn't matter, and my boundaries were negotiable. This judge just told me clearly that I was right to protect myself and my property. Luca squeezes my shoulder as we stand to leave. Victor and Linda stay seated, looking stunned. Walking out of that courtroom, I feel stronger than I have in months. Outside the courthouse steps, the afternoon sun hits my face, and I'm pulling my phone from my purse to text Arya when I hear Linda's voice calling my name. I turn and see her rushing toward me despite everything the judge just said. Luca steps between us immediately with one hand raised. You need to stop right there. The restraining order is active as of 10 minutes ago. If you come within 500 feet of her, you'll be arrested. Linda freezes, but her face twists with anger and she starts shouting from where she stands. You destroyed my son's life. He was trying to help his family and you turned it into this nightmare. We have nowhere to go and it's all your fault. You're a selfish, heartless woman and karma will come for you. I watch her fall apart on the courthouse steps and feel absolutely nothing except relief that she's not my problem anymore. Luca guides me toward the parking lot while Linda keeps yelling behind us. Her problems are not my responsibility and never were. Victor made choices that hurt everyone, including his own family. And that's on him, not me. I get in my car and drive away without looking back. 3 days later, my phone rings from a number I don't recognize. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. A woman introduces herself as a prosecutor from the district attorney's office and asks if I have time to discuss my case against Victor. My stomach drops because I hadn't decided yet about criminal charges. She explains they reviewed the police reports and evidence I provided for the restraining order. The forged lease and documented financial theft present a strong case for prosecution. She says they want to move forward with criminal charges because Victor's pattern of behavior suggests he could do this to someone else if there aren't real consequences. I ask what charges they're considering, and she lists forgery, theft, and fraud. Each one makes my hands shake a little more. She explains the process will take months, and I'll need to cooperate fully with their investigation. I agree immediately because she's right about the pattern. Victor planned this for months, stole from me systematically, and forged legal documents. If he did it to me, he'll do it to his next girlfriend. The prosecutor sounds satisfied and says someone will contact me soon to schedule a formal interview. After we hang up, I sit in my car outside work for 10 minutes trying to process that this is really happening. Victor is going to face criminal charges because of what he did to me. That weekend, I finally call the therapist number Arya gave me weeks ago. I've been putting it off because I thought I could handle everything myself, but the nightmares about finding strangers in my house haven't stopped. The therapist has an opening Monday afternoon, and I take it. Her office is small and comfortable with soft lighting and plants everywhere. She asks me to tell her what brought me in, and I start with coming home from Seattle. It all spills out in this jumbled mess of facts and feelings. She listens without interrupting and takes notes occasionally. When I finish, she sets down her pen and explains that what I experienced fits clear patterns of financial abuse and coercive control. Victor didn't just make a bad decision. He systematically manipulated me over months. She asks about our relationship history, and I realize as I'm talking that there were warning signs I ignored. He slowly gained access to my bank account by asking to transfer money when he forgot his wallet. He discouraged me from asking too many questions about his family by saying I was being judgmental. He made me feel guilty for having boundaries about my own home. My therapist points out each pattern, and I feel stupid for not seeing it before. She's quick to say that's exactly how these patterns work. They're designed to make you doubt yourself. I leave that first session feeling raw but also validated. What happened to me has a name, and other people have survived it too. 2 weeks later, my boss calls me into her office, and I panic for a second thinking something went wrong with my promotion. Instead, she smiles and tells me the regional manager position is officially mine starting next month with a significant pay raise. I actually laugh from relief and maybe a little bit of hysteria. The timing feels almost symbolic, like my professional life is rising, just as I'm clearing out all the toxic garbage from my personal life. She congratulates me and says I've earned this through my performance and dedication. That evening, Arya and Finn take me to a nice Italian restaurant downtown to celebrate. Finn orders a bottle of wine and makes a toast about new beginnings and leaving toxic people in the past. Arya adds that she's proud of me for handling everything with such strength. I feel genuinely happy for the first time in months. My career is taking off. I have friends who actually care about me, and Victor is facing real consequences for what he did. Things are finally moving in the right direction. A few days later, I'm scrolling through social media before bed when I see a message request from someone named Eddie. It takes me a second to place the name, then I realize it's Victor's youngest brother. My first instinct is to delete it, but curiosity wins. He's written several paragraphs apologizing for his family's behavior and explaining that Victor told them I was his fiance who was excited to help them get back on their feet. Eddie says he feels used and manipulated too now that he knows the truth. He wishes he'd questioned Victor's story instead of just accepting everything. He ends by saying he hopes I can forgive him someday, and that I deserved better. I read it twice, then close the message without responding. Part of me appreciates the apology, but I learned my lesson about getting involved with Victor's family. Eddie might genuinely feel bad, but he's still part of that family system, and I need to protect my boundaries. I don't block him, but I don't respond either. Some bridges need to stay burned. The prosecutor contacts me again in early November with news that Victor has been formally charged with forgery, theft, and fraud. She explains his attorney immediately started trying to negotiate a plea deal, but they're holding firm on consequences that match the seriousness of his crimes. The forged lease alone is a felony, and combined with the systematic theft over months, they have a strong case. She warns me that Victor might try to contact me through third parties to pressure me into asking them to drop charges. I tell her about Eddie's message, and she makes a note of it. She says to forward any contact attempts to her office immediately. Over the next few weeks, she keeps me informed of every development. Victor's attorney argues he's a first-time offender who made a mistake out of desperation to help his family. The prosecutor counters with evidence of months of planning and systematic deception. I'm grateful someone is fighting for me in a system that can be overwhelming. Arya comes over one Saturday with paint samples and fabric swatches spread across my kitchen table. She announces we're redecorating to help me reclaim my space from all the bad memories. We start with my bedroom since that's where Linda wanted to take over. Arya helps me pick out new bedding in colors I actually like instead of the neutral tones Victor preferred. We go shopping, and I replace the kitchen items that feel contaminated by his family's presence. The cast iron pan that someone left soaking gets tossed, and I buy a new one that's even better quality. Each change makes the house feel more like mine again, instead of a crime scene. We paint the guest room a cheerful yellow, and I buy new towels for the bathroom. Arya turns it into a fun project instead of a sad necessity. By the end of the weekend, my house looks different enough that I can walk through without seeing Victor's family everywhere. It's my space again, and I'm taking it back piece by piece. 2 weeks later, Eddie shows up at my door with a box. I almost don't open it, but he calls through the door that he has my grandmother's items that Linda took. I crack the door with the chain still on, and he holds up one of the decorative plates I'd noticed missing. He looks embarrassed and tired. He explains his mother took them thinking they belonged to Victor and he could give them to her. He says he wants no part of his family's dysfunction anymore, and he's moving across the country to start over. I take the chain off and accept the box, checking quickly that everything is there. I thank him for returning them, but keep the conversation short. He apologizes again, and I can tell he means it. But I also recognize he's still part of that family system, even if he's trying to break away. After he leaves, I put my grandmother's things back where they belong and feel another piece of my life clicking back into place. 3 months after Victor's family invaded my home, the prosecutor calls with news that Victor agreed to plead guilty to reduced charges. Instead of going to trial, he's accepting probation, mandatory restitution of all the money he stole plus damages and required counseling. He'll avoid jail time, but he'll have a criminal record now. She asks how I feel about the plea deal, and I'm honest that part of me wanted him to face harsher consequences. But another part of me is just relieved it's over without having to testify in a trial. She explains the restitution terms mean he'll be paying me back monthly for the next 2 years as part of his probation. If he misses payments or violates any terms, he could still face jail time. I feel satisfied knowing there were real consequences even if they're not as severe as I'd hoped. Victor can't pretend this didn't happen, or that he didn't do anything wrong. It's official now in the legal system. The first restitution payment arrives in my bank account 6 weeks later. It's about a third of what Victor stole plus damages for my ruined property and legal fees. Luca calls to confirm I received it and explains the payments will continue monthly as part of Victor's probation terms. If he misses even one payment, his probation officer will be notified, and he'll face additional penalties. The money itself matters less to me than what it represents. It's official acknowledgement that what Victor did was wrong and illegal. For 3 years, he made me feel like my boundaries and concerns didn't matter. Now the legal system is telling me clearly that I was right to protect myself and my property. I transfer the money into my savings account and feel another weight lift off my shoulders. Justice isn't always perfect, but sometimes it's enough. My therapist's office has become a safe space where I can talk through everything without judgment. She sits across from me during our weekly session and asks how I'm feeling about Victor's guilty plea and the restitution payments. I tell her honestly that part of me still feels stupid for not seeing the signs earlier. She stops me there and points out something I hadn't considered. I acted decisively the moment I discovered what was happening. I protected myself, called the police, got a lawyer, and followed through on every legal step. That's not poor judgment. That's strength. She explains that Victor spent months planning his deception, and I had no reason to suspect my partner was capable of that level of betrayal. I'm learning to be proud of how I handled the crisis instead of ashamed that it happened at all. The session helps me see that trusting someone isn't weakness when they've earned that trust through consistent behavior. Victor broke that trust through deliberate lies and manipulation. That's on him, not me. Finn catches me in the break room at work the next week and suggests I might be ready to try dating again. He has a friend who recently moved to the area and thinks we might hit it off. I'm hesitant, but Finn promises it's just coffee, no pressure, and his friend knows I'm coming out of a bad situation. I agree mostly because I trust Finn's judgment and figure I should at least try. The date happens on Saturday afternoon at a casual coffee shop downtown. His friend is nice enough and we talk about work and hobbies for about an hour. Nothing feels wrong, but nothing feels particularly right either. I realize halfway through that I'm comparing everything to Victor, looking for red flags and manipulation tactics that aren't there. When we say goodbye, I'm polite but don't agree to a second date. Walking to my car, I understand that I'm healing but not healed yet. I need more time before I can open my heart to someone new without bringing all my fear and suspicion with me. Work announces they're sending me to Denver for a 3-day conference about regional management strategies. My first reaction is anxiety about leaving my house empty again. The last time I took a business trip, Victor invaded my home with his entire family. I know rationally that can't happen now with the restraining order and criminal charges, but the fear is still there. I spend the week before the trip getting a security system installed with cameras at every entrance and motion sensors throughout the house. The technician shows me how to monitor everything from my phone no matter where I am. I ask Arya if she can check on the house daily while I'm gone, and she immediately agrees. The trip itself goes well, and I participate actively in the workshops and networking events. Every night I check my security cameras and see nothing but my cat Muffin walking through empty rooms. Coming home Friday evening to my secure, peaceful house feels like a victory. I prove to myself that I can leave without disaster striking. My home is mine, and it stays mine even when I'm not physically present. I stop at my usual coffee shop the following Tuesday morning before work. While I'm waiting for my order, I notice Victor's sister Mika sitting at a corner table. She sees me at the same moment and her face goes red. I consider leaving, but she stands up and walks over before I can decide. She apologizes awkwardly for the nail polish incident on my grandmother's table and everything else that happened. She explains that she's cut ties with her family after realizing how toxic their behavior was. Living with them for those few days at my house showed her dynamics she'd been ignoring her whole life. The entitlement, the manipulation, the complete lack of respect for boundaries. She says she's in therapy now and working on becoming a better person. I appreciate her growth and tell her so, but I also keep the conversation brief. I'm protecting my peace, and that means not getting drawn back into anything connected to Victor's family, even the members who are trying to change. I take my coffee and leave with a polite goodbye. She seems to understand. 6 months have passed since Victor's family invaded my home. I decide it's time to reclaim my house as a space for people I choose and trust. I invite Finn, Arya, Luca, and a few other friends over for dinner on Saturday night. This is the first time I've had guests since finding 7 strangers in my living room. I spend all day cooking and setting the table with my grandmother's china that Linda tried to steal. When everyone arrives, I feel nervous but also powerful. These are people who supported me through the worst time of my life. They helped me fight back and reclaim my space. Dinner is loud and full of laughter. Arya makes a toast about how far I've come and everyone raises their glasses. Finn jokes that I should charge admission since my house is basically famous now. Luca mentions that cases like mine help other people recognize abuse patterns in their own relationships. By the end of the night, I'm exhausted but happy. My home feels like mine again, filled with people I love instead of people who tried to take it from me. 2 weeks later, I receive an email from Victor's probation officer. Victor violated his probation by contacting me through a fake social media account. He created a profile under a different name and sent me a message trying to explain his side of everything. The probation officer takes it seriously because the restraining order specifically prohibits any contact, direct or indirect. She tells me Victor will face additional penalties, including possible jail time if he violates again. I'm grateful the legal system is holding him accountable and protecting my boundaries. Victor clearly hasn't learned that my no means no and that I'm not interested in his explanations or excuses. The probation officer asks if I feel unsafe, and I tell her honestly that I don't think Victor would physically hurt me, but he definitely doesn't respect legal boundaries. She makes a note in his file and says they'll be watching him more closely now. My next therapy session focuses on trusting my instincts. My therapist asks if I had any uncomfortable feelings about Victor's family dynamics before the invasion. I think back and realize I did. The 2 times I met his family, they made comments about my house and my success that felt off. His mother asked invasive questions about my finances. His father made jokes about how I should share my good fortune with family. I dismissed those feelings as being judgmental or uncharitable. I told myself I was being too sensitive. My therapist points out that those instincts were trying to warn me something was wrong. I ignored them because I wanted to believe Victor's family was normal and that I was overthinking things. She helps me understand that moving forward, I need to listen when something feels wrong, even if I can't immediately explain why. My gut was right about Victor's family, and I won't ignore those warnings again. The 1-year anniversary of my promotion arrives, and my boss takes me to lunch at an expensive restaurant downtown to celebrate. She tells me I've exceeded every expectation as regional manager. My performance metrics are the highest in the company, and my team consistently hits their targets. Then she mentions something that surprises me. The executive team was impressed by how I handled my personal crisis while maintaining professional excellence. She says it demonstrated the kind of resilience and compartmentalization skills they look for in upper management. My ability to protect my personal life while never letting it affect my work quality showed real leadership. I thank her and realize my career is thriving in ways I couldn't have imagined a year ago. Victor tried to destroy my peace and stability, but instead I came out stronger professionally and personally. 3 months later, I attend a work conference in Chicago about emerging markets and regional strategy. During a networking lunch, I end up sitting next to a man named Fletcher Brooks, who works for a partner company. We start talking about the morning sessions, and the conversation flows easily. He's funny and self-deprecating in a genuine way that feels refreshing. We exchange business cards, and he emails me that evening asking if I'd like to get dinner while we're both still in Chicago. I agree, and we spend 3 hours at an Italian restaurant talking about everything from work, to hobbies, to family. Fletcher is patient when I mention I recently got out of a serious relationship. He shares that he went through a difficult divorce 2 years ago, so he understands taking things slow. He's transparent about his life in ways that feel different from Victor's constant evasions and half-truths. When I get home from the conference, Fletcher texts asking if he can take me to dinner again. I say yes, cautiously optimistic about where this might go. Fletcher and I have been dating for about 6 weeks when he asks if he can meet my friends. I arrange dinner at a nice restaurant with Arya and Finn because I trust their judgment completely. They arrive early, and I warn Fletcher that they're going to ask him a lot of questions. He laughs and says he'd be worried if they didn't care enough to vet him properly. Dinner starts with Arya asking direct questions about his divorce, his job, his family, and what he's looking for in a relationship. Fletcher answers everything openly and honestly without getting defensive. Finn asks about his living situation and financial stability. Fletcher explains he owns his condo outright and has a stable career he's been building for 10 years. By the end of dinner, they're all laughing together and Fletcher fits naturally into the conversation. After he leaves, Arya pulls me aside and tells me she approves. She says Fletcher seems genuine in ways Victor never was, and that she can tell he respects me by how he listens when I talk. Finn agrees, and adds that Fletcher's body language shows he's comfortable being himself instead of performing for approval. Their blessing means everything to me. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrives from Luca's office with the final restitution check from Victor. I open it standing in my kitchen and stare at the amount that represents the last of what he stole, plus the damages to my property. The check feels heavy in my hands, like it carries more weight than just money. I drive to the bank that afternoon and deposit it without ceremony. The teller processes it quickly and hands me the receipt. Walking back to my car, I realize this closes the financial chapter completely. Victor can't owe me anything anymore. I don't have to track payments or wonder when the next one will come. That part of my life is finished. Luca calls me the next day to confirm all legal matters between Victor and me are officially resolved. He sounds pleased when he tells me the case file is closed. I thank him for everything he did to protect me and hang up feeling lighter than I have in months. The weight I didn't even know I was still carrying lifts off my shoulders. I can stop looking backward now. 3 months pass and Luca contacts me again about something I hadn't thought about in weeks. Victor's probation period is ending soon, and the restraining order expires at the same time. He asks if I want to file for a renewal to extend the order another year. I sit with the question for a few days before deciding. Victor hasn't tried to contact me since that fake social media account got him in trouble with his probation officer. His family hasn't bothered me either. I'm not afraid of him anymore. That fear that used to wake me up at night wondering if he'd show up at my door is gone. I tell Luca I don't want to renew it. I'm strong enough now to handle any unlikely contact, and I'm confident Victor has moved on with his life just like I have. Luca respects my decision and files the paperwork to let the order expire naturally. Fletcher and I have been dating for 4 months when he brings up meeting his family over dinner at his place. My stomach tightens immediately, and I feel that old panic start to rise. Victor's family invasion flashes through my mind, but Fletcher notices my reaction and asks what's wrong. I tell him about what happened with Victor's family, and how the idea of meeting anyone's family makes me nervous now. Fletcher listens without interrupting, and then says something that helps. He tells me his family would never dream of coming to my place without an invitation, and they always ask before they even use someone's bathroom. He says if I'm not ready, he understands completely, and we can wait as long as I need. His patience and understanding convince me more than any pressure could have. I agree to meet them the following weekend. Fletcher's parents live about an hour away in a nice suburb. We drive there on Saturday afternoon, and I'm surprised when his mom answers the door and immediately asks where she should put her shoes. She doesn't want to track dirt into my car later, she explains. His dad shakes my hand gently and thanks me for making the drive. His younger sister offers me something to drink and actually waits for my answer before getting anything. The whole afternoon, they're warm and respectful in ways that feel almost foreign after Victor's family. They ask about my work and listen to my answers. They tell stories about Fletcher growing up that make him blush. His mom asks if I have any food restrictions before serving lunch. When I need to use the bathroom, Fletcher's sister shows me where it is and apologizes that it's small. The difference between this experience and Victor's family invasion is so huge I almost want to cry. These are normal people who understand basic respect and boundaries. Driving home that evening, Fletcher asks nervously what I thought. I tell him his family is wonderful and I'm so glad I met them. He looks relieved and squeezes my hand. Monday morning, my boss calls me into her office with a smile I recognize. She tells me the executive team wants to promote me again, this time to a position overseeing multiple regions instead of just one. The role comes with a significant raise and more responsibility than I ever imagined having at this point in my career. She says my performance over the past year has been outstanding, and they see real leadership potential in me. I accept on the spot, trying to keep my voice steady. Walking back to my desk, I feel proud of myself in a way that's different from before. This success is mine. I earned it through my own work and competence. Nobody gave it to me, and nobody can take it away. It's not about getting anyone's approval or meeting someone else's standards. It's solid and real and built on my own foundation. That weekend, Arya calls me sounding excited and asks if she can come over. She arrives with her boyfriend and a huge smile. Before she even sits down, she holds out her hand to show me the ring. She's engaged. I hug her immediately and we both start talking at once about the proposal and the ring and wedding plans. Her boyfriend watches us with an amused smile. Over the next few hours, we start planning her wedding together. She asks me to be her maid of honor and I say yes without hesitation. Watching her talk about her relationship, I can see how healthy it is. Her boyfriend treats her with respect and consideration. He asks her opinion on everything. He listens when she talks. He never makes decisions that affect her without including her in the conversation. The difference between her relationship and what I had with Victor makes me grateful I didn't settle. I could have married Victor and spent years in that toxic dynamic. Instead, I'm here helping my best friend plan a wedding that will actually be built on love and partnership. A few weeks later, I'm at the grocery store picking up ingredients for dinner when I see Carl in the produce section. He's examining tomatoes and hasn't noticed me yet. I freeze for a second, unsure what to do. Then Carl looks up and our eyes meet. His face goes pale and he quickly looks away. He turns his cart around and walks rapidly toward a different aisle like he's afraid I might approach him. I stand there holding my shopping basket watching him retreat. The fact that he's the one who looks ashamed and avoids contact feels like proof of how much has changed. I'm not the scared woman he tried to intimidate in my own kitchen anymore. I've reclaimed all my power and he knows it. I continue shopping without giving him another thought. Fletcher and I have been dating for 8 months when we start talking seriously about moving in together. This time, though, everything is different. We don't consider moving into his place or mine. We decide to find somewhere new that belongs to both of us equally. We spend weekends looking at apartments and condos together. We discuss what we each need in a space. We talk about budget and split the costs fairly down the middle. When we finally find a place we both love, we make the decision together. No one person is doing the other a favor. We're building something as partners. Moving day arrives and Arya and Finn both come to help. We unpack boxes together and arrange furniture through compromise and discussion. Fletcher asks where I want things instead of just putting them wherever he thinks. I do the same for him. The difference from my relationship with Victor is so clear it almost makes me laugh. This is what healthy looks like. This is what respect feels like. A month after we move in together, I get an email from a women's professional organization asking if I'd be interested in speaking at their monthly meeting. They want someone to talk about overcoming personal setbacks while advancing your career. Someone apparently recommended me, though I don't know who. I agree and spend the next 2 weeks preparing my talk. Standing in front of 40 women, I share my story in broad terms without naming names or going into details that are too personal. I talk about facing a major betrayal during a crucial career moment. I discuss how I protected my professional life while handling personal crisis. I explain the importance of boundaries and self-respect. After my talk, several women come up to share their own stories of similar betrayals. They thank me for being honest about how hard it was. One woman tells me my story gave her courage to leave her own toxic situation. Driving home, I realized that my painful experience gave me wisdom I can share to help others. The suffering wasn't pointless. It taught me things I can use to make other people's lives better. 2 years after Victor's family invaded my home, I take stock of my life. I'm thriving in every area. My career is exactly where I want it, with a position I love and respect from my colleagues. My relationship with Fletcher is healthy and stable, built on honesty and partnership. My friendships with Arya and Finn are stronger than ever. I have complete ownership of my peace and boundaries. Nobody gets to violate my space or my trust anymore. I've learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish but necessary. Real love respects rather than violates. The people who truly care about you will honor your boundaries, not push against them. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm stronger and wiser and more sure of what I deserve. Fletcher plans a weekend trip to the mountains, and we drive up on Friday afternoon. The cabin he rented sits next to a lake with trees all around. Saturday morning, we hike to a lookout point with views across the valley. We stop to rest on a flat rock, and Fletcher seems nervous. He keeps fidgeting and checking his pocket. Then he pulls out a small box and opens it to show me a ring. He tells me he wants to spend his life with me. He says our relationship is built on honesty and respect and genuine partnership. He promises he'll never make major decisions without me. He asks if I'll marry him. I say yes without any hesitation or doubt. This time I'm confident because I know what real love looks like. We start planning a wedding that reflects both our values. We make decisions together about everything, including the guest list. We discuss budget and split costs fairly. We choose a venue we both like. When Fletcher suggests inviting his whole extended family, he asks first if I'm comfortable with that many people. I appreciate that he checks rather than assuming. This is what partnership looks like. This is what I deserved all along. I list my house with a real estate agent 6 months after Fletcher proposes, and the market is strong, so showings start immediately. Walking through rooms with potential buyers feels strange because every corner holds memories both terrible and empowering. The kitchen where I confronted Victor about his family invasion. The living room where police escorted 7 people out. The bedroom I reclaimed as my sanctuary. A young couple makes an offer after the 3rd showing, and I accept without hesitation, because holding on to this property means holding on to pain I no longer need. The closing happens 4 weeks later, and I sign papers transferring ownership to strangers who will fill these walls with their own stories. Fletcher and I use my profit plus his savings as down payment on a larger house in a neighborhood we both love. We walk through the empty rooms together, planning where furniture will go and which room will be the office. He asks my opinion on every detail from paint colors to cabinet hardware. We sign the mortgage together with both names on the deed and move in on a Saturday with help from Arya and Finn. Unpacking boxes in our new home feels completely different from the violation I experienced 2 years ago. Every item I place on a shelf is a choice Fletcher and I made together. No one reorganized my cabinets without permission. No strangers claimed my bedroom. just two people building a life based on respect and partnership. Arya's wedding happens 3 months later at a vineyard with views across rolling hills. She looks beautiful in her dress, and her fiancé waits at the altar with tears in his eyes. Sitting in my chair during the ceremony, I remember my own engagement to Victor, and how different that relationship was from what Arya has now. Her partner treats her with consideration that Victor never showed me. During the reception, Fletcher and I dance to slow songs while lights twinkle overhead. His hand rests on my back and we move together easily after months of learning each other's rhythms. I feel genuinely happy in ways that seemed impossible during those dark days when Victor's family invaded my home. Arya hugs me during a quiet moment and thanks me for standing beside her through everything. I tell her she did the same for me when I needed it most. Watching her celebrate reminds me that good things do come after hard times if you're willing to protect yourself and wait for what you deserve. Fletcher and I plan our wedding over the next 6 months, making every decision together from the guest list to the menu. He suggests inviting his extended family and asks first if I'm comfortable with that many people. I appreciate that he checks rather than assuming. We choose a venue by the water and hire a photographer whose work we both like. The ceremony happens on a warm afternoon with 70 guests who actually know and support us. No boundary violations, no family members claiming privileges they haven't earned, no drama or manipulation. Just people celebrating a partnership built on trust and equality. Fletcher's vows include promises to always make major decisions together and respect my autonomy. My vows acknowledge that he showed me what real love looks like after I almost settled for something toxic. We dance our first dance as a married couple, and I feel certain about this choice in ways I never did with Victor. Settling into married life means establishing routines and rhythms that work for both of us. Fletcher loads the dishwasher every night while I prep coffee for morning. We alternate cooking dinner and always ask before making plans that affect the other person. Sometimes I think about how Victor's betrayal led me to this better place. If he hadn't moved his family into my house, I might have married him and spent years in a relationship built on disrespect and violation. I'm grateful I had the strength to protect myself when everything felt overwhelming. I'm grateful I recognized that I deserved better than someone who forged documents and stole money. My life now with Fletcher in our home that we chose together is proof that choosing yourself is never the wrong decision. Every morning, I wake up next to someone who respects my boundaries, and every evening I come home to a space that feels safe. That's what I fought for 2 years ago when I called the police and kicked out 7 people. That's what I protected when I pressed charges and got a restraining order. This peaceful life where no one violates my trust or invades my space. This partnership where decisions get made together and consent actually matters.